it's going to take everything we have and much more to get the world to begin to transition in this direction in the window of opportunity that we have to do it, which is the next 15, 20 years. So I think that COP21 will be a turning point. It will be remembered as a turning point. It will be remembered as the new beginning, of something completely different towards the future. There is, as never before, the understanding of the effects of a growing population and our aspirations to well-being, which we're all entitled to, against the planetary limits of an Earth that is not growing any larger. So when we were 1 billion people or 2 billion people or 3 billion people, the usage of natural resources, the way we developed and these things really didn't have an effect. The world's a big place and it can take it. Today, we begin to see the effects. And if we measure it, we're probably consuming 1.5 or 2 times the equivalent of the resources on Earth from a sustainability perspective, which does not bode well towards the future. Gandhi was asked, will now people in India be able to live as well as they live in the UK? And he answered, well, it's taken the UK half the resources of the world. It would require India to have 4 or 5 planets. So for the first time, humanity is facing that challenge in a much clearer way than we have ever been able to see it before. We have seen enormous transformations in the energy sector around the world. 20 years ago, most of the energy in the world was produced in the OECD nations. 10 years ago, most of the energy was produced outside the OECD nations in countries that still have a good amount of turmoil and political instability, in regions that are very conflicted. Now, you have the US becoming an exporter of energy. Who would have thought about those transformations in the energy sector in only 20 years? My impression is that the future cannot be a continuation of the past, but needs to be completely different. And so the big challenges to solve as we move forward are, one, the poverty and inequity which we still have, which is not only something to solve because of a moral and ethical dimension, but also, if you want to look at it only in those terms, because of a peace, security, and economic dimension. And secondly, the climate change issue. Today, like never before, we begin to see and witness and feel the effects of climate change. It's not something of the future, it's here with us. You know it very well. Glaciers are receding. The world is already a different place. There is a greater opportunity here, and certainly that's my position. There is a greater opportunity here for the developing world to leapfrog into clean development. That's the story that needs to be told and reinforced. There is an issue here with financing, and certainly countries that have more economic wherewithal should help a lot more in financing this. And there is an issue with technology transfer. So some of your developing countries say that technology which you need is IP protected, and the licenses of that are very expensive, and here and there and back and forth. I come from a developing world country. I believe in IP, because if you don't have intellectual property rights, you're not going to send correct signals to stir innovation and creativity. But at the same time, that has to be a part of the cost. That has to be a part of the financing. You have to finance that as you move along. And so I look at this much more as an opportunity for the North and the South to work together. And then we have to take advantage of other exogenous conditions. China is moving now at lightning speed in this direction, not because of a consideration for carbon emissions, but for a consideration because of air quality. They need to do it. They need to do it. And so the way to do it is to shut down coal. And shutting down coal means go to clean energy. And for the world, that means less carbon. So we'll take it. Let's work with them. Let's help them. So we have political tension, economic weakness, and environmental urgency that are the backdrop against which this conference is being held. And the environmental urgency because, if we don't get an agreement here in Paris, it will take us another at least 5 years to kind of come back together at the same table. The last opportunity we had was Copenhagen 2009. After that, we went into a tailspin. Now we have an opportunity. We better take advantage of it. It's going to take civil society continuing to press as civil society has been pressuring so far. Okay? It's going to take businesses that want clear signals of where the heck we're going so that they can take their investment decisions. There are 80 or 90 CEOs here of global corporations that are now saying, let's get on with it. Let's put this together and let's get on with it.